We've been talking about having trains in Halifax for years and years.
It could move thousands of people every day and make the downtown much more accessible. I mean, the tracks are already there, so we're so glad that council is finally starting to invest money into commuter rail. Wait, what? We're not talking about that? Okay.
Last week, Halifax Council voted unanimously to help fund this train running along the waterfront to the tune of $50,000, with the potential for another $70,000, and another $70,000 in the next 2 years. Now, don't get me wrong, I really like this train, but the decision to use public money to help fund it is a bit controversial.
The train was originally bought by Murphy's The Cable Wharf, which is owned by Ambassadeurs, one of the largest tourism companies in town. They wanted to offer it as a pay-what-you-can service to help people get up and down the waterfront, so they approached the city for some funding. Now, the city's not allowed to give grant money to private organizations, so it seems like Ambassadeurs formed a non-profit called the Halifax Community Road Train Society to get the funding. And at first glance, the optics of this don't look amazing. City staff directly advised council not to approve this grant because the $50,000 is double the maximum that nonprofits are allowed to apply for, making this a huge exception, and also because of the nonprofit's close ties with a for-profit business. But Halifax Council approved the funding anyways, and that decision was made in a private meeting outside of the public eye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Council.
That being said, there is a case for public money going into a project like this. For starters, we actually had a publicly funded shuttle downtown several years ago called FRED, Free Rides Everywhere Downtown. That shuttle cost around $75,000 to taxpayers every year. This road train is asking for much less over 3 years with plans to be self-sustaining afterwards. Policy 74 of the downtown plan also calls for a downtown shuttle, similar to this train. So although the project may have originated from the private sector, it does align with public interests. The train is already a popular attraction, and it's likely to benefit a lot of businesses downtown, including Ambassadeurs, of course. But if I'm honest with you, I don't really think this discussion is all that productive.
The root of the matter isn't the trains, it's why we supposedly need the trains, and that is Queen's Mark. It's a huge private development that shut down a part of the Halifax waterfront. And that's kind of a big deal because 2.7 million people visited the waterfront just last year.
The construction of Queen's Mark was going to be a royal pain in the ass for all those people to get around the waterfront, so something had to be done. This $120,000 train is just one project of many meant to help people get around the development while it's being constructed. Another project is this floating bridge that was granted a budget for $1.8 million by the provincial government.
These are all really cool ideas, but let's be real here. Public money is being used to make it easier for a private developer to construct their building. And this issue isn't just unique to Queen's Mark.
Developments are messy. Literally, they close down streets, sidewalks, and generally cause a huge nuisance. But in this city, the responsibility of dealing with that mess are the development's neighbors, and ultimately, the public. We see it this way. The city is kind of treating developers like a crappy roommate. You know, the one that doesn't do their dishes or leaves food out on the counter. Yeah, you could confront them, or you could just mumble a few choice phrases under your breath and do the dishes for them. Because heck, you don't want them to go away. You need them to help pay the rent after all. And that's the other side of this argument. The city needs development. There are huge investments into the community. In the case of Queen's Mark, $200 million is being spent on this development, and the tax revenue on that alone will more than pay for the $50,000 we're spending on this train this year. On top of that, the city is trying to encourage more development downtown, so being flexible and making it easier for construction to happen downtown are perhaps in the best interests of everybody.
But when governments are making all kinds of exceptions and spending a lot of money just to mitigate construction, you have to admit, there has to be a line somewhere. Yes, perhaps we need that messy roommate to help pay the rent, but let's not forget, that roommate also needs a place to stay. Okay, so this ended up being a bit more of an opinion piece, so we'd love to hear your thoughts on the issue as well. To what degree should the city be responsible for the impacts of construction? And what should the developer be responsible for? Feel free to leave your comments below. We look forward to hearing from you.